Alright, your second objective in part 3 of module 2 of quadratic functions and graphing them is to use technology to find a regression equation to model data. A regression equation is just a specific quadratic function, a y equals ax squared plus bx plus c function in standard form that represents a specific set of data points. And so data can be represented in a variety of different ways, and in this place, especially scatter plots, what we're going to be working with for this part of this module. With scatter plots like this, if they tend to look roughly like a quadratic parabola or the graph of a quadratic, we can find a specific quadratic regression equation to model this data. And then this data allows us, or this model, the regression equation, allows us to make predictions about how this data will go in the future, or what the maximum point of the data might be, things like that. And so that's the purpose of this, and we get to use technology for it because to actually do the math behind this would take quite some time. And so we get to use our TI-84 calculators, and that's the goal of this. By the end of it, to be able to construct something like this graph right here, the goal is to be able to do something like that, and then also develop a line with your calculator that matches the data for the most part. It's considered to be a line of best fit. If you can do this by the end of these videos, you'll be doing great for this part of the module. So let's move down to an example. Example 1. Quadratic models, and we're going to work through 4 examples. I'm going to do one, and I'm going to have you try 3 of them on your own. Each example asks specific questions about the data itself, and you need to be able to use your calculator and manipulate it to answer the questions correctly. So the whole goal of this is to be able to use the calculator. So please be following along with your calculator as I'm doing this example. I'm only going to do part A in this video. So if I was going to model part A, and I read the question, the data in the table shows participation in baseball in the U.S. for various years. It gives us 5 years and 5 amounts of people. And they're in millions, and the years are in 1900, but they just gave the second half, 87, 90 through 99. The first step I would do if I was doing this is label my x values and my y values. X are the years, Y's are the millions of participants, or the amount of participants. Now, part A says, construct a scatter diagram, what I just showed you, of the data and use the quadratic regression feature of a graphing calculator. That's what we're going to do to find the quadratic function. So, we're looking for something of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, the standard form of a quadratic function. Our calculator is going to give us our a term, our b term, and our c term. That's your goal, to find an a, b, and c. Now, the first step in doing that with a calculator is to look and find the stat button. You hit stat and then the number 1. It should say edit. That's what you're going to use. So I'm going to show you on a calculator how I would do that. Let me find it quick. So, alright, I hit stat, and then I can either hit the number 1 or just hit enter because it's already on edit. I go into my L1 and L2. L1 represents my x values, L2 represents my y values. So this is where you would input your x and y values into your calculator, just like I'm about to do. I'm going to do it using my mouse here. 87, 90, please be doing this as I'm doing it. 93, 98, and 99. I'm done with L1. I can scroll over to L2. I do 15.1. 15.5, 15.6, 12.3, and 12.1. Alright, this is the first step, entering into L1 and L2. You can check your work to make sure that there's the same amount of L1 entries or X entries as there is Y entries. And there's 5 over here, 5 numbers, and there's 5 over there. So I know that I've done this part right. So you're done with step 1. Let me go back over here and write out what step 2 is. Step 2 will be to hit second quit to go to the home screen. Second quit. Please be writing these notes down as well. And then hit stat calc, scroll over to calc, and then number 5, which is quad regression. Let me put that in parentheses. So you need to find the quad, it says quad regression, quad reg. That button right there. That's what you need to go to next. So if I were to go over here, I would hit second mode, technically, for quit, then hit stat, scroll over to calc, go down to number 5, or hit the number 5 and then hit enter. Now your screen might show this, just the word quad reg, or it might come up with a list of options, L1, L2, and then a couple different things. Regardless, if your screen shows the other one, just scroll down until it says calculate and scroll down to calculate and hit enter on calculate. Otherwise, what I'm going to do right now on this screen is just hit enter when it's flashing like that. I press enter. It gives me my y equals function for this set of data. So at this point, I need to write down all of that. It's going to be big and long and ugly, but I need every point so it can be as accurate as possible. You see how it says y equals ax squared plus bx plus c? It gives me my a, b, and c values. So I'm going to write that down. Y equals, my a is negative 0.0528, negative 0.0528, 76798, 76798. That is my a term. It's ugly, I know, but that's what it is. Now my b term is positive, so I'm going to put plus. If it was negative, I'd put minus. B term is positive 9.56607.072545. And finally, my c term is negative in this case, and so I'm going to write minus 416. I'm sorry, I need an x after my b term. And then minus 416.964728. 964728. This part A asks for find the quadratic function to fit the data. I have just found the quadratic function to fit my data. It is long and ugly, but that is the exact quadratic function that will, when I eventually create a scatter plot, which I'm going to show you in the next video, I can put this into y equals and it will match my scatter plot. And this function is what's going to be able to help me manipulate and answer these questions that are following on this worksheet. So hopefully you followed along step by step on your calculator, and hopefully you already have this in your calculator. Then you have it written down.